So you have a big insurance company, and their profit is 7% of the gross cost of healthcare. Okay. So what happens if the cost of healthcare goes up? Well, they go to the state and they say, our cost went up, and they say, okay, yeah, you can have a 7% rate increase. And their profit just went up by 7%.
Right.
Now, what can be easier for them than that? They want to expand their business. They want to get more people. Sure. If they cut the cost of healthcare in half, then the folks paying for it can say, well, we're not going to pay your lower premium. We want to pay a lower premium.
Right.
So they make less money. Tell me a business that wants to cut their profit in half.
And that, to me, lies the fundamental issue with where we are. We have to, don't get me wrong, I'm a fan of, everybody has healthcare coverage. I kind of like that.
Absolutely.
But it's also, there's business and basic economics behind it that also have to be baked into this,
The incentives work for the insurance companies.
Yeah.
The current system works, and it works for big health systems.
Yeah.
If you've got orthopedists and neurosurgeons and imaging and all that hospital stuff, that's all expensive.
Right.
Yeah, as the cost goes up, you get bigger, you get a monopoly.
Yep.
Then, you make more money and you grow. That's great. So it works great for the insurance companies. It works great for the drug companies. It works great for the big hospital systems.
Right.
But the employer and the employee is getting it in the neck because they're paying for it.
Yeah.
And the cost keeps going up, and there's not much they can do about it.
And the care is not, kind of seem like the care is not there.
That's a market force. That's happened because what the insurance companies will pay for is not what people want. Mm-hmm. Because good primary care lowers the cost of healthcare. And that cuts their profits. That's a problem.
I can't wait to talk to you. I have a guy waiting for me downstairs, though, Doc. Okay. Do you live in the area? Are you local?
I live in the area. Actually, I'm moving up to Pasadena. I live in Glendale now.
Oh, cool.
So
either way, I'm pretty mobile, but I like to do my podcast here. If you're ever interested, I'll reach out to you. What's up, Real Value Army? You know what? That was a quick clip from my networking function that I love going to up in Pasadena on Fridays, like coffee in Pasadena, but get a chance to run into a lot of great characters up there. And that was Dr. Peter, man. He was just riffing about some of the flaws, some of the holes and the gaps in the healthcare system. So look forward to having him on the podcast so we can dive into it a lot further. But today's guest is going to be with Eathyn. He's an athletic trainer getting into more of the holistic sports chiropractic world. So I think this is going to be a really fun conversation for you guys. I don't want to waste too much time. Let's dive into it. I want you guys to meet Eathyn and kind of hear some of the up and coming trends that's happening on the local level. And it's one of the things I'm really been excited about just being able to bring to the podcast world is to talk more about just how we can have impact around the corner. A lot of times you get wrapped up into how you can have this big movement. Even you heard Dr. Peter talking about it a little bit from top down, and there's so many issues going on, man. It's hard to have a top-down approach with this. You might have a lot more success trying to see if you can really better connect people throughout your actual, zip code and get them linked up and make sure that you guys, know who's around the corner from you and see if they can provide some services that maybe you guys can have some type of cross care with. So with that said, we'll get into it. I'll let Eathyn introduce himself and sit back and enjoy it. Please rate and subscribe it as always. And if you have questions, you can always hit me up at Joe Alex Lemon, wherever you are online. Healthcare nut. I care about all things, helping people kind of live out their best lives. That's how I look at it. And if you got a broken body or if you got a broken outlook on life, then it's difficult for you to kind of thrive in your space. And so man, if you don't mind though, tell the audience where you're from, how you got interested in healthcare, because you got a pretty cool background, man.
Yeah, thank you. So, so for sure, I was born and raised in Montana. I grew up there. I kind of got my first taste of medicine. My dad was out there. It's not full-time EMTs, paramedics in a lot of spots because a lot of spots are just rural, small areas. And so dad was a part-time, a volunteer EMT, and I got kind of into the trauma medicine side, and I got my first little looks into that. When I got into middle school, high school, stuff like that, I started going and hanging out a lot in our athletic trainers room and stuff like that after classes, before football practice, before all those other practices. And I kind of got in my head what it is in the day of a life of somebody who does that kind of thing. And back then, not that long ago. I'm still pretty young, but back then it was an up and coming thing. Athletic trainers were unheard of. You get looked at, I'm an athletic trainer, and you got a third eye in your head, something like that. So So it was like, it was cool. I got to hang out with her and really figure it out. And so, I mean, by the time I was in high school, I was 100%. I'm like, I'm going to go to college and I'm going to be an athletic trainer, man. I got into college, pumped out my 4 years. I graduated from Lieber State University in Ogden, Utah. And during my times there, I got a little bit into emergency trauma medicine, working with action sports like FMX, rally car racing, snowboard, ski, stuff like that. And so I got into all of that, working with an outside company that just does that for a living, you know.
That's a wild group to kind of treat too, though. I would imagine, man. You probably saw some ridiculous type of incidents happen, man.
Absolutely, you see some crazy stuff, especially those FMX riders. A lot of them are Aussies, and so they're born crazy, you know. Like they live for that stuff.
Yeah, man. Yeah, love it.
But yeah, so I got into that, and I got hooked up with one of the guys, one of the upper management in there, and he is actually a chiropractor athletic trainer out of the Los Angeles area. He works down in the Westlake Village, Calabasas kind of area. And when I graduated from college, he said, "Hey, come out. We got a position open for you. We'll get you out here and we'll get you working." Hell yeah, man. I went out, moved to Los Angeles, packed up all my stuff. I was
Nice.
like, oh yeah, big city living, man. Let's do it. I
How'd
got
you like
there.
it, man?
Yeah. It was huge, man.
Yeah.
Lots of people. So
It's a beast of a city. True.
it's a whole different beast from Montana, man. Let me tell you.
I could imagine. Yeah.
But so, yeah, I mean, I went down there. I worked 2 football seasons with a local high school out there. And then I met my current girlfriend, stuff like that. And we kind of got serious and all that stuff. And so right now I'm currently residing in Bakersfield, California. I'm working out of a local clinic, contracted to a couple local high schools up here. And I'm just, living my best life, man. It's the job of an athletic trainer, especially a contracted one, is it's simple. I wake up in the mornings. I don't have to go to work until noon, 2:00 in the afternoon.
I'm jealous.
But I mean, it's late nights. Like tonight, I mean, I gotta travel an hour and a half north, cover a football game. I won't be getting back until probably like 1:30 in the morning or something like that tonight. So, I mean,
who's the actual chiro athletic trainer who you were working with out of LA?
Yeah. So his name's Dr. Scott Blatt.
Blatt. Yeah, man. Matter of fact, they got a super cool training facility up there. They actually work with a ton of athletes. I forgot the name of it off top, but it's in a beautiful area. Thousand Oaks and all that?
It's in Thousand Oaks, Westlake Village. The name of the clinic is actually Body Logic Sports Therapy.
That's it. Yeah, man.
They work with all sorts of high caliber athletes out there. It was an amazing experience to get to work with him and his team.
That's awesome, man. I mean, man. So I'm in like Pasadena, but it's a small community of people that work with like these elite athletes, man. And being kind of in that field, you really kind of got yourself exposed to some really high quality training, I'm sure. Then
100%. I mean, that man he's something else, man. He's been in the game for 25, 30 years now. And you talk to him about anything, he's got an idea about it. It was cool to get to learn and study under him.
That's awesome, man. So all right. Talking about like high school sports a little bit. I mean, cause obviously, how is the whole football culture out there? Is it like, big in like Bakersfield? I'm not sure. I'm just asking cause I'm coming in from outside, I guess. Is it? Football's
huge no matter where you go. I personally felt a larger football culture when I was down in the Thousand Oaks area.
Really? Okay.
It's based on what athletes you can produce and stuff like that. I really haven't seen, since working here, a monopoly in football. There's certain sports. Like my team that I was with last year, my girls basketball team actually went to the state championship game. And so, I mean, for that short period of time, it was all women, girls basketball.
Right.
And then, I mean, we have McFarland USA out here, the famous cross country movie running team, So, I mean, like that school, like prides their cross country. So, I mean, like I said, I haven't seen a huge monopoly of football, but I mean, on Friday nights, you still get those football crowds. You can still pack a stadium and it still gets really hyped and stuff like that. You gotta let the heat die down a little bit. But
I was about to say it gets blazing out there in Bakersfield too, man. I know a little bit about that.
I mean, great. Today I think it's supposed to be 103, something like that.
Jeez, in September. So, I mean, man. So tell me about like Montana a little bit too, man. Like, how's the whole football culture there? Is it intense there?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
Football culture, I mean, it's surrounded by our college rivalries a lot, like 100%. I mean, it's nothing like the Georgia rivalry or nothing like that, like Bama, all that stuff. But I mean, when they have Cat Grizz weekend, MSU and U of M get together and they play, and you got to buy tickets years in advance just to get a seat for that year, you know? So like,
Cool.
but it's a huge environment for football. And I mean, of course I'm biased because I have all my friends that I follow, but I mean, people who are seniors in college or like people who have gone to the draft and like now are in NFL, like I still see tweets from them like, hey, I got my team in the high school state championship, Class A, stuff like that. You know? So like people still talk about it. It's a cool culture.
It is though, man. I mean, you know, I was kind of guessing that's how it was too, though, because a lot of times what people, I guess, don't talk about a lot is that a lot of these smaller towns, man, you guys go all in on like straight football culture. I mean, so I was born and raised in Pittsburgh, where we're like pretty serious about football out there.
Right.
But I mean, like, I was shocked to see how that happens in like a lot of places. You know,
Definitely.
I thought it was just us, but I think everybody kind of does it. Just like a degree, right?
It's everywhere, man. I mean, you get a playoff game and mom and pop shops, the town shuts down so everybody can travel to it. You know, it's cool. It's crazy.
That's awesome, man. All right. So all right. Now you're doing like straight trying to help out students, make sure that they don't get injured. Any tips for any younger athletes or any thoughts on maybe how they ought to kind of prep themselves pre-games, post-game? All that.
Yeah, 100%. So I mean, the kind of big thing that it is that to get to high school athletes, a lot of times is professional sports are glorified. They have their right to be. I mean, they are the top shape athletes in the world, and so I mean, one thing that it's kind of hard to get into the understanding of these kids is, you guys are not professional athletes yet, you know, like, and so they see these things and a kid comes in and he gets injured and stuff like that. I mean, you see something like an ACL tear or something like that. And you're like, okay, sorry, bud, you're like done for the season. Like it's over. And this kid's like, well, Eathyn Peterson came back in 3.5 months. Why can't I do that? And I was like, dude, you're not Eathyn Peterson. And so like, the biggest gap that I think that is huge for athletic trainers and what we do in our job is to educate these kids on the health system and educate them on their own bodies to help them figure out this is what your body needs and this is what you need to do in order to get it there and create this perfect thriving system for their body. I mean, your body doesn't need to sustain, it needs to thrive, and that's how you get the best situations for your possible self.
Love that, man. I mean, you know what? I think that's a great approach to like through education, because you're right. Like people headline read like all these major athletes dropping hundreds of thousands of dollars doing the cryo, doing all these, innovative tech. But a lot of times, one or two things: either you don't have the access to it because you can't afford it because it's crazy, right? Crazy expensive, or you probably don't even need it because you're not doing those things where like you're even going to cause yourself to really put yourself in that situation to actually 100%. Benefit from it, right? And there's so many things that, like, I was talking to a couple people recently. There's so many things that people overlook, like the big stuff. Like, are you getting enough sleep? Like, just the bare bones, because we know how we stay up late. At least I do.
Yeah.
And I'm constantly trying to tell myself, all right, dude, it's 11. Like, take it in so you can try to get a hot 6.5 to 7, hours of sleep, man. But it's like those things that we always want that like magic bullet for, or that purple pill that's going to solve it all. Right?
100%. Yeah, travel down the magic hole.
Yeah, man. So all right, cool. So you've been doing that for how long now, as far as working with the younger athletes?
So relatively new. I mean, with my schooling involved total, I've been around for probably only about 5.5 years.
No, that's good, man. It's awesome.
Yeah. So, I mean, I came out fresh. I've only been a certified ATC for coming up on 2 years. I was certified in February of 2017.
That's awesome.
So,
I mean, and like now you're looking at going into like a different phase of like healthcare. You want to talk about that?
100%. Yeah. So I actually working with Dr. Blatt and stuff like that. I opened my view to chiropractic. I mean, if you would have talked to me my sophomore year of college and said, dude, you're going to be a chiropractor, I would have laughed in your face and told you you're an idiot. Like, going and working with these guys, working these huge events where we get these huge multidisciplinary teams, and a lot of them are chiropractors. And you see these guys work, and there are those people out there that just claim that these guys are just bone crackers and they're kind of like all in their own self and they're just feeding a bunch of BS and stuff like that. And you can think that until you sit in a clinic and watch the progress of point A to point B in one of their patients, I'm studying, getting ready to start studying chiropractic right now. And I actually go back, classes start 2 weeks.
Oh,
So,
wow.
so I'm getting into that world. And it was a completely different approach to how sports medicine can be taught to kids. And the biggest thing that I came through was like, okay, if I become a chiropractor, I don't want to be that dude that sits in an office all day and just cracks bones and sends people. And that's not what chiropractors do anymore. As soon as I got into the clinic, I realized like chiropractors can do physio, they can do manual tissue therapy and all that kind of stuff. And they can still act with their athletic trainer mind or their physical therapist mind, but it's just another tool to them. It's another resource that they can use to help this person's body get to where it needs to be, And so it's like, when I got into that clinic with Blatt and I started working with him and I saw like all of his successes, all of his progress, all the people that just came in and constantly were like, Blatt, you're the man, you're the man, you're the man. And I was just like, chiropractic is the way to go. Get those people's bodies in. So, it was a huge eye opener for me to be able to finally be like, yeah, that's what I want to do. And I'm super excited to get going on that.
Love that, bro. Man, you know what? I think it's like any other, line of work. Where like you have people that are great at it and you have people that it's that 1% that gets all this, all these articles and negative pub about it. But it's like, okay, so there's a couple people doing some negative things out there. True. Right. That's with every profession. I'm in like sales and marketing. There's some horrible sales and marketing guys out there too, right? That are out there lying to people and trying to cheat people out of stuff. So that's with across the board. But you're absolutely right. There's people that are doing some game-changing, life-changing type of therapies, and not putting yourself in the box. And I think that's what chiropractic allows you to do. Allows you to open up and really kind of treat people as a whole, opposed to kind of just having like one little niche that you only serve. So. Awesome, man. I love that you're getting into that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, man. Man, so you know what? Talk about any other trends that you're seeing in like healthcare right now. Anything that you're kind of seeing that's like, man, this is going to be big in the next 5-10 years. Just start any predictions that you're seeing.
Right. So it's smaller box a little bit. You got those people that are out there talking about PRP injections and so platelet-rich plasma injections and all these other things that are coming in and stuff like that. And the things that I have been focused on really is the change on how people really go about physical therapy or making a rehabilitation in general. It's moving away a lot from those people who are like, yeah, dude, you got to go get a massage. You got to go do this. You got to go lay on this table and let this other person fix you,
Yeah.
Sports medicine and just rehabilitation in general is completely moving away from that. From what I'm seeing I worked with a physical therapist down in Blatt's office, and she told me something one day. She goes, you didn't get hurt on the table, so I'm not going to fix you on that table. And I was just like, damn, like that flipped the switch in me, and she's so big into functional fitness and getting these people back into making these movements that even though it did hurt them, like you got to start training those as soon as you possibly can, pain free, like as soon as you get back into doing what injured you, you're going to help your body realize like, hey, I did this wrong. I need to do this to make it right again. And so the not to counteract that soft tissue mobilization and stuff like that, massage and all that stuff isn't helping. It's definitely helping. It has its place. But in order for you to get a full roundabout way, you got to get up and you got to start moving. You got to start doing these lifts. You got to start deadlifting, squatting, doing your bench presses again. You got to get back into the gym and doing these movements properly with the proper cues and technique to make sure that your body is going, okay, yeah, this is what I need to do. This is what I did wrong. And here's that body. And you get all those neural connections starting to fire again and going. And then couple weeks later, your body's right, and it's going to stay right because now you know what you need to do, and you weren't stuck on a table for 3 weeks of therapy. They got you up and moving, and you started moving as soon as you can. And I mean, you were a little hesitant at first, but we got you to where you need to go. And that's another thing in there is the psyche of people is like, oh, I hurt myself, I shouldn't move it. I got to immobilize that joint. I got to immobilize that part. No, start moving that joint. And that's the huge thing that I'm seeing in therapy now, where we used to say like, oh, you sprained your ankle, you have a grade 2 ankle sprain. Let's immobilize that joint until your pain is gone, and then we'll start moving it. And now we're like, no, you sprained your ankle, start moving that thing. Like I'm on the sideline, kid rolls his ankle, tweaks it, comes over to me, and I'm like, cool, start doing ABCs and ankle pumps. And he's like, but it hurts. And I'm like, okay, don't push through the pain then. Like go to the uncomfortable spot and then get going. And that's that. I've seen huge strides in the way that medicine is working. It's unbelievable the turnaround that I can get with that anybody can get with athletes if they really view this new way of rehabilitation.
Man, you know what? Movement is medicine, man. And, I think that people are catching on to that trend finally. I mean, they've been talking about it for a while, but I think, maybe 5, 10, maybe even 20 years ago, like it was the elites of the elites understood that to a degree. Yep. And I think it's finally starting to kind of trickle down through a lot of people because you're absolutely right, man. I mean, we have to get moving and we got to treat it as a whole system, even the whole, neuro cognitive piece of it. I mean, that's a big part of rehab. Mm-hmm. I mean, because if you don't believe that you actually can get there or mentally you have those blocks up, man, it's 100%. Huge, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's huge. And I mean, that's the thing. I mean, it really depends on the area too, because I can't bash on certain systems, but I'll send these people to a certain place because of whether of socioeconomic downfalls or something like that. They can't get to a place that I want them to get to. Yeah. And so they'll go to another place and they'll come back with this note that says, hey, don't do anything for 2 weeks. And that bugs me, man, because I get an athlete that comes in, he sees me, he's like, hey, my quad's hurting. And I'm like, cool, okay, well, this is what we're going to do. Like, this is what you need to do. We're going to back you off of practice a little bit. We're going to start modifying some stuff for you. And then he goes home to mom and he says, Mom, man, my quad's hurting me. And mom takes him to this place. And then they're like, no, 2 weeks, you're done. Don't do anything. And then my hands are tied because I'm so far down on the food chain as an athletic trainer that I'm like, well, now we're stuck, dude. Now I can't do anything with you. And it's just like, that's kind of, I'm waiting for all levels of things to get to that point where it's going to be this huge multidisciplinary team where it doesn't matter where we send somebody, that everybody's going to be on the same page. And that's the utopia of medicine right there.
It is the whole, I mean, man, that was like the holy grail of healthcare to me. It's like, if everybody could somehow, and this sounds like really like sci-fi-ish, like Amazon's going to try to create this in a little bit. But if somehow you could have it up in the cloud, and then everyone that was working with that person were on the same page about the process. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, like all of a sudden you just get this thing like, oh, you saw this guy? Okay, that's cool. We got it. Like, yeah, it's all telecommute. Yeah. Well, I mean, Eathyn, man, I love where you're going with your whole work, man. I mean, please tell everybody how to find you, how they can link up with you, and please, like. I mean, honestly, I would love for you to document as you kind of go through some of these things. So if you have any blogs or like websites that you kind of operate on, man. Yeah, 100%. So I mean, I don't have nothing for myself. But I mean, I do have, I don't have any business pages or nothing like that yet. I'm still kind of getting into my niche and stuff like that and figuring stuff out. But I mean, I guess my most, you can come find me on LinkedIn. I mean, I'm one of the only Eathans that spells my name the way I do. So it's not hard to find me, So, I mean, my LinkedIn would be the best way to try and get a hold of me if you wanted to ask me any questions. My like Instagram, it's on private for a reason. But I mean, if you wanted to direct message me, like you could get to me on there too. But I mean, I'm on all forums. I'm a true generation. I got Twitter, I got Facebook, I got Instagram, I got everything about it. Like, you could hit me up on ESPN Fantasy Football, and I'd probably respond to you, man. So I mean. But yeah, no, I mean, as soon as I get kind of into my world of chiropractic, I'm assuming that my pages will start to change here very quickly. And I'll start to get more into the business side of things. Cause right now I kind of sit there and other people do the business stuff for me. I just kind of go in there and do my thing, man, like No, man. I mean, man, look, it makes total sense. I think LinkedIn's the place to be right now, especially for what you're up to. If I mean, because you never know where you might find your next, business partner, colleague, friend, whatever. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
LinkedIn's a good spot to kind of play, bro. So cool,
Yeah.
man. So you know what? I'll put your actual LinkedIn page in the actual show notes here, man. But otherwise, brother, we're out, man. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, my man.
Yeah, no, I appreciate all the time, Joe, and getting to know you and stuff like that. It's been a real pleasure.
Absolutely, brother.
Cool, man.